evening. Hello. Dumelang. Can we come close, everyone? Oh, good. Good evening, everyone. I believe I'm audible to everyone in this room tonight. My name is Khehla Chepape Makgato, Museum Attendant of the William Humphreys Art Gallery. I would just like to welcome everyone to coming to the exhibition opening of Mr. Peter Clarke, and I'll just give you a few simple house rules. No pictures, no touching, and no eating in the exhibition spaces. So, by not wasting any more time, I would like to welcome the big boss, our director, our CEO, our own Director General, Ms. Nelly Mkhize.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I need a feedback when I greet, so that I can see that I'm speaking to people that are alive. Anyway, thank you very much for honoring our invitation. We are very honored to have you here. My job here is very small, so I won't take long because I don't want us to keep you here longer than you are ready to be kept. I just like to welcome each and every one of you and to say thank you for prioritizing us. I'm sure you had better things to do with your time, but you chose to come here to this event that we invited you to. So you are all welcome. This is your home. Feel free. And this is a good opportunity for me as well to also introduce our new member in the WHAG family, who is our Chief Curator by the name of Chepape Makgato. I must say, in the month that he has spent with us, a lot has happened, which means that we made the right call by appointing him. And this exhibition that we are launching today is his work. It's his first work of the many to come. So, yeah, this gentleman is the one who put together with his team, who put together this lovely exhibition that you will be seeing after the proceedings of the night. Once again, welcome to all of you. This is your home. I hope you enjoy yourselves and yeah, take care. Thank you very much.
No, thanks, Nelly. I was thinking after your speech, the Chief Curator will be jumping on stage and making my work a little bit easier. Yeah, I know everyone, my colleague just reminded me I forgot a small little matter to announce about our toilets. On my right, to your left, there's a door to the toilets. If you want to relieve yourself or put on that makeup again and just keep it there. So, by not wasting time again, I will invite the Chief Curator, our newly appointed Chief Curator, the first Chief Curator of the William Humphreys Art Gallery, Mr. Chepape, who will give us a curatorial statement of the exhibition he has put together. Can we give him a round of applause?
Tobela. Ligai.
Before I give a small curatorial statement, I would like to do what I normally do when I open exhibitions in Johannesburg and in Polokwane. And this is in order to inform my people that I am in the space. By my people, I mean that people who came before me from the lineage of the Makgatos. So it goes like this. Khehla Chepape Makgato. Khehla miro wa matlhwa matala wa matlhwa mashweu siena ke miro wa letsenele. Khehla tapalatlo e hwa e sungwa moshate. Khehla Chepape wa bolephai le mpedi. Solanka pela wa magamata po ya gataito a ikwela e betola maswana. Ka rialo ke tshaba baditi. Ke a lebo. So go tshaba baditi is just to say I'm a little one, I respect the elders. Meaning you cut short the recitation of the poetry or the clan praise poetry. So I'm very grateful to be here, and I thank you all for honoring the invite. This exhibition is very important to me for various reasons, which I'm not going to be long because we have an opening speaker who will speak to the exhibition. So Peter Clarke, whose work is on show tonight, is a man who was born in 1929 in Simonstown, and the forced removals of the then apartheid forced him and other South Africans to relocate to what is known as Ocean View. And unfortunately, he died in 2014, 13 April. He died almost 4 months after I had visited him in Cape Town, Ocean View. When I visited him there, he was 84 years, and he was my mentor. How I met him from Standard Bank Art Gallery when he was doing a walkabout, which was on his exhibition called A Distant Thunder, which the book or the catalog of that exhibition is in that glass there. So after giving a walkabout, I walked to him as a young student, college student, art student. I went to him and I said, Mr. Clarke, I would like to write a review about your exhibition. And he said, oh, that sounds interesting. I said, where can I send it? I said, give me your email address. And he laughed at me and he said, I'm an old school. I don't have an email address, but I have a post address. So he gave me a business card to which I sent the review of that exhibition to him. And I was just trying my trade as an art writer then. So after a few weeks, he replied by phoning me. And when I answered the phone, he said, KC, you are speaking to Peter E. Clarke from Cape Town. I was shocked because I didn't expect him to call me. And he just told me that I received your review, I loved it, and I'll respond accordingly through the post. And he did that. From there, we developed a relationship, and he always emphasized the importance of education. And that is why we chose, me and my team, we chose the title of that piece there that speaks to education. And I think the title of the show is very is timeless, because the challenges that many people faced in South Africa on their pursuit to education are still much relevant today. So, and he's one of the most celebrated artists in South Africa, in the sense that he was bestowed the Order of Ikamanga by the then President of South Africa, His Honorable Thabo Mbeki. So, and also he was bestowed an honorary doctorate by a university in Taiwan back in 1984. And he was also a fellow in a writing program at the University of Iowa after he had spent a short time, September 1975 to May 1976, on a writing residence in the United States of America. So here we're talking about somebody who was not only a visual artist, but a poet, a writer, illustrator, and a mentor to many of us. So the career that spanned 60 years of this great giant, I hope it will inspire more and more cultural workers. By that I mean not only painters, not only printmakers, but also poets and writers. And this is because in 1950s, he won the Drum Magazine poetry competition, which I think the poetry, the person who was judging that competition was Langston Hughes, who he inspired many South African arts and cultural workers of the 1960s. So, with that being said, I would like you to enjoy the exhibition, talk about it, introduce it to your colleagues and friends, and let Peter Clarke's work and legacy be known across South Africa, because he was a very important man. Without any further ado, I would like to thank Kagiso for the opportunity, and also to thank all the WHAG members, team that made this exhibition possible, and also for really welcoming me with warm hearts, warm hands, and helped me to put together this debut curatorial work. I look forward to working with you, friends and colleagues. Enjoy the show.
No, thanks, Chief Curator. One can pick up from your speech that this place is going spaces. It's going places, it's going to reach international and even galaxy stages, I don't know, out there somewhere. I was given a very stern warning, a very ernstige opdracht gegee when welcoming the next speaker on stage. I was told not to forget a certain part of my welcoming him onto the stage. I was told I shouldn't forget that the following speaker, Mr. Sabata Mokae, who's a lecturer at the Sol Plaatje University, I was told and instructed to say, not to forget, he's a multi-award-winning novelist, Wasetswana. I think with that, he deserves a huge, huge round of applause, and let's welcome him.
But I need to say that the warning did not come from me. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much, the management of the William Humphreys Art Gallery for inviting me again. I must say that things have changed. I see change and my heart is dancing. The first time when I was invited to speak at the opening of an exhibition here, my heart sank. I wrote a speech. I came during the day. I walked through the exhibition. I made notes. I met the artist. And then in the evening I came, and there was an audience. And in the audience, the only black people was myself, my wife, and my son. And there were almost a sea of white people, except the staff from the WHAG. Most of them around the age of 60. And I was wondering, in 10 years, 15 years to come, who will be the audience at the WHAG? My heart sank, and I took the speech that I had prepared, I put it back in my jacket, and I did not read it. I responded to what I saw, because I did not see future there. This is probably the fourth, if not the fifth time that I've been asked to come and speak at the opening of an exhibition, and I have seen change gradually, and I am happy. I am happy. The city is changing. There was a time in Kimberley when come 6 p.m., black people knew where they belonged. They did not reside here, except if they worked here. We are here because we live here. So things have changed, or things are changing. There is hope. Peter Clarke. For some, the pathway to education lies between thorns. I think in the brief introduction, it was stated that I teach at the university in our city. And I always say to our students that the best way to understand the art is also to know who the artist is, where the artist is coming from, and perhaps we might understand why the artist created the kind of art that he created. Because we might understand the times in which he created that art. Peter Clarke Chepape stated here that Peter Clarke was born in 1929, passed on in 2014. 1929 to 2014. During those years, South Africa went through profound change. It is actually still going through profound change. And if you're an artist living during those years, the best you can be is to be a historian of feelings, an historian of that profound change. And I think Peter Clarke, or Peter E. Clarke, has done that very well. It is stated that he sold his first work at the age of 16. And I would like to see that work. I haven't had the privilege of seeing that work. But as artist of his time, he did not box himself. I remember Herbie Hancock saying that we always put ourselves within fortresses and say, I'm a novelist, I'm a painter, I'm a jazz musician, and the society buys into that and we comfortably live into that. And until we break out of those fortresses, we do not see that we are multidimensional beings. Peter Clarke is an example of multidimensional artist who became a poet. In fact, I did not know my brother Chepape. I thought, until you got here, that in this room, I was the only person who could call myself a fellow of the University of Iowa, until you mentioned that Peter Clarke had been there too. But Peter Clarke was a poet as well. He broke out of that fortress. He allowed himself to live out of that fortress like an artist of his time. He walked on the path on which the likes of Sol Plaatje walked on. Remember that when Sol Plaatje wrote his first book in 1899, 1900, he had already earned his salary as a teacher, as a post office messenger, as an interpreter and typist. He had not allowed himself to live within a fortress. And that was Peter Clarke. But let us look at the art and what it means and why it is relevant today, 70 years later. What do artists do? We are gathered here today or tonight because an artist called Peter E. Clarke created art that became a mirror on which we looked ourselves as a society and realized that what we thought all this time has been a pimple is in actual sense a festering sore, and that a plaster has not been enough. That as a society, if we are to imagine ourselves otherwise, sugar coating is not going to be enough. And we have been a society that has been very good at sugar coating. We have been walking, looking at his art. The truth that is there is actually what has made it relevant today. Confuse art with entertainment and see it disappear in a month. And this is art. It's not entertainment. He has facilitated for us that process of imagining ourselves and the world otherwise. Peter E. Clarke. I've looked at titles of his works. One of them, Doing What We Have to Do, we get on with our lives. That is a haunting title, especially considering that this is a title of a work created during apartheid. Weeds can also be beautiful. Weeds can also be beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to bore you with lots and lots of work. Of words. But what I'm going to say to you, or what I want to bring to your attention, there are two pieces of work that I looked at that were created in 1966 and 1967 that showed me the bravery of this man. 1966 and 1967, remember apartheid became legal in 1948, and we had laws such as Immorality Act. 1966, he created lovers, and in lovers, he had two people having sex in public, two people of different races. And then 1967, lovers in the garden, the same, but in the garden, challenging the apartheid government. Artists do not sing praises, and their truth do not make friends. And Peter E. Clarke was such. And that is why he has stayed in power. We are here 70 years later. The next 70 years, we'll still be celebrating his work. We'll still be engaging with his work. We'll still be writing about his work. And his work will still be inspiring many more artists. Thank you.
No, thank you, Master Sabata. I hope the artists here and the fellow residents and learners, everyone took that message to heart. As artists, we need to start making impact. Yeah, because we can all see societies taking another route, and yourselves as practicing artists, I believe, just like Peter E. Clarke, put the weight on his shoulders to try and voice out his dissatisfaction against the system that was oppressing us. You too can do that, because we are not free. We might have rights, we can have freedoms, but we still have many challenges that we are facing, especially students. I'm sure that you know that it's a battle to get the diploma or degree. Also to get that employment after varsity. And I believe as artists, you can make that impact. Because in the 60s, 90s, 80s, people who made an impact were artists. Most of the impact was made by artists. So take this opportunity. You have fellow artists here, you have people with influence. These spaces are your spaces. It's not easy also in the art world to make it. But if you are at spaces like this, talking to the relevant people, getting advice from the right people, I think this country can become a better place. We mustn't stay in our boxes. As Mr. Sabata said, we must become multidimensional beings, which we are. It's just that we are still caged up. But it takes a process. It's not easy. But once you start speaking to other people in the same position, you'll start see that that energy or that power will start coming out of you and change will come. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that was our last speaker for today. But in our closing remarks, I just want to redirect back to our Chief Curator to just give us more insight. I can see the lady in pink is looking at me like, I'm very hungry. But no, it will just be, it's very brief. It won't take much of your time. And speaking of food, we do have some light refreshments served on my left to your right after hearing the speeches. So don't worry, my lady. We are with you. Mr. Chepape, everyone, can we just welcome him back on stage with a round of applause?
I'm sorry to be back again here. Now I'm speaking on behalf of our director who had to leave after welcoming you. So one last point that I want to make is that when we say Peter E. Clarke, it's something that he emphasized, that when we call his name, we must always say Peter E. Clarke. The E in the name stands for Edward. And when I asked him why this emphasis, he said because there are so many Peter Clarkes over the world, all over the world. So when you say my name, you must include my second name, which is Edward, but you can have a pleasure of just saying E for Edward. So that is something that I wanted to also mention. Then the last one is that in all the conversations that I had with him, I had asked him how does he want to be remembered? And his answer was that I do not want to be remembered by really putting up a statue in my name or in my honor. I said, but everyone is putting up statues in honor of those great people. He said, yeah, but I don't want that because and these are his words. He said, all the birds of the world will find a way and make their droppings on top of me. Which I found it to be very interesting and fun. And I said, okay, cool. If that is the case, how else should we remember you? He said, maybe, he said, I wouldn't care. I said, I listened, and he said, because I wouldn't be there. And I pestered him to really tell me how he would be remembered. He said, perhaps a library could be named in my honor, or an art center, which is what people in Cape Town, there's a place in Cape Town that honored him with an art center because he had love for children and he always took his time to share his skills or his knowledge with children. So there are two things in his works that are trademarks or that are common. That is a stylized bird or birds and thorns, which he used thorns as a metaphor for challenges, and the story of birds that constantly weaves or they become a thread of his narrative is that he told a story of how birds became a metaphor in his work. He said, when his uncle died in the 1960s, what they did when they were burying him, his uncle was a pigeon owner. He had many pigeons or birds. And when they buried him in the cemetery, they had a cage and they had put those pigeons inside the cage. And before they could go home, they opened the cage and all those pigeons flew away. When they get home, they found all his uncle's pigeons at home. So he used that as a metaphor for freedom or liberation. And Mr. Mokae is correct to say that artists contributed in rebelling against the apartheid system. And Peter Clarke is one such artist who really spoke against the apartheid laws. So from me, Chepape Samantola Tau, I thank you so much for giving us your time. And as my colleague Kariso has mentioned, we do have light refreshments that side, and I would like you to enjoy yourselves tonight with our light refreshments. And we do have a shop in front that sells artworks that are created by offenders, and they are very cheap. They are masterpieces. You could inquire and buy. They are as cheap as one can afford. They start from $50. So it's something that I would like to encourage you to take home as a way of supporting the arts. And thank you so much. Enjoy. I declare the exhibition open. And my colleague is reminding me that there's a comment book there. After looking the artworks in the exhibition, kindly feel free to leave your comment in that book, because this exhibition, we aim that it should be a travelogue. From here, its next stop should be maybe Johannesburg or Durban or Polokwane. So we want to have this exhibition touring the country. We thank you so much. Enjoy.